Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Jen O'Sullivan. I'm a board certified doctor of naturopathy out of Southern California, here to share with you my thoughts on mindset. This is a presentation that Dr. Tony shared with me, and I edited a little bit for my own language, but just wanted to share with you some thoughts about mindset from the perspective of potentially how you show up in your business. So let's dive in, get this screen shared here for you so you can see this fun presentation. All right, so my first question for you is, how are you becoming a true believer? And part of the issue with becoming a true believer is you have three parts to that. And if one part is missing, it doesn't work. So you need to be a true believer in the product. That means you got to be a product of the product. You have to actually do the product, like wear the product, try the product, make sure you're paying attention to what's working, what's not. Listen to testimonials, really get in there and hear how this is working for people because that gets you excited about the product. You also need to be a true believer about the company. That means you actually have to learn about the company. You have to see how solid it is and who's behind the helm, right? Who's the person in charge? Who are the leadership team at corporate? Where are they moving us, right? How are things moving forward? So that's important too. Are you a true believer in the company? And then you need to really consider how much of a true believer in yourself you are. And I find that this one's really hard for people. If you can get into some coaching, grow yourself, really figure out, where are your weak points? How can you become a better leader? How can you become a better servant leader? It's an interesting thing that, out of these three, oftentimes people are raving fans about the product, and then they can become kind of, I don't really know because I can't answer questions about the company. I don't know, somebody else could have a story that they heard online, and now you're like, I don't know, maybe our company's weird. It's not, right? So when you start to see how amazing this company is, you need to research it. You need to understand how amazing this company is. You need to see for yourself. So that means coming to some of the events, coming to the conventions all the time, like definitely coming to those, but listening, coming to the meetings that they have. They have, monthly meetings. You can hear from the founder, from the inventor. But then the thing that most people have the hardest time with is the self, working on the self. So I do encourage you to really pay attention to how you can grow yourself right now. And then as you're working through all of this, just share stories. The more stories you share, the better. Facts sell, facts tell and stories sell. So it's important to remember that. And, nobody really, facts, but the stories, when you can start learning the stories people have, those are what make the connection from your head to your heart. Okay, so I want you to now think about your own personal vision. Is this a business for you or is it just a hobby? Because if you're sort of, I shared a couple patches this week, then it's just a hobby. But if you're like, every day I have a method of operation and I'm figuring it out, then maybe it's a business. But I want you to figure out what your specific vision is. So that goes further into what's your why. And you've heard this before, but your why should make you cry. And training on your why is so important because when you get down to your true root why, and the way that I do this with my clients is I ask them what their why is. And they say, because, I want to help people. And then I say, well, why? I keep asking the question why. Well, because, and then they'll keep answering, and with every single answer, I ask why. And usually it goes down to something that happened to them when they were a child, something that is like really gut wrenching and important to them on a guttural human level, and they'll start crying. So the best way to figure out your why is to every answer you have, ask yourself why and answer, and then ask yourself why to that answer, and keep going until you see that it hurts. Okay. But I want you to educate yourself. I want you to educate yourself on the business, on the products, and on self improvement. I don't want you to try. Get that word out of your vocabulary. There's no try. There's only do. You're going to commit. Okay. So now I want you to consider the who. I don't start knocking on doctors' doors and people who you think, practitioners, and people go after the weirdest people and think that they would be amazing. They're the worst because they're too busy. And I encourage you to go after the people who are hungry. Think about the person who maybe had some success at one point, but now is struggling. I mean, this is 2024, and the real estate agents out there are all of them tell me they're fine when I know for a fact they're struggling. So the ones who are very self-aware, willing to admit that they're struggling hardcore, those are the people. You want people who are hungry and their backs are up against a wall, but who also know what it means that they have a good work ethic and they're willing to do that work. So look for people who want improved health, but also look for people who want more time to spend with their family, better finances, and consider your own warm market, right? You're constantly building, you're constantly looking at lists and okay, who else can I add to my warm market? And what the best thing is you don't want to push a rock up a hill, okay? We don't want to drag a horse to water. We want motivated people who are going to be motivated without you, right? Think that through. Motivated people are motivated without you. Those are the best team members to have because they just take initiative and they get it done and you're like, awesome. So that's what I encourage you to do. Now, what about your own character? I want to ask you, who do you follow? Some of you might say no one. I don't know. Like I follow certain people. I follow everyone. Some of you are follow junkies. You follow everyone. So my question to you is, who would follow you? Are you followable? And then I also want you to consider what are your reasons for or against building. And I know you got plenty. You got plenty of reasons for and you have plenty of reasons against. Write them out so that you can attack them head on. I want you to stay motivated. Use your patches, share your patches, participate in the training, stay connected to the leaders, stay close to the fire. The people who are excited about this, stay close to them and become a product of the product. Okay, what about objections? We went a little bit over that, but I want you to arm your defenses. I want you to get educated. I want you to figure out, that's why I said list them out. List out every objection you have, every objection anybody's ever told you. You know them all. You know you know all the objections. So you need to know the answers. You need to have a better answer. You need to be more sturdy and solid in how you present a response without arguing, right? But, "Oh, no, oh, yeah, I totally get that. But here's the reality." And then think about people, right? You've got red apples, green apples, and rotten apples, right? It's a funny analogy. Dr. Tony shared this with us, and I thought this is a great analogy. You got red apples. You got people who are just ready to go. They're on it. Those are the ones you want. And then you've got your green apples. They're kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like Granny Smith, right? We're just kind of like, I think I gotta learn some more. I gotta figure this out some more. I want more training. I need to know every single letter of each study, right? Like, okay, are we gonna move or are we not? And then you got rotten apples, and you know who those people are. They want to tyrannize you. They want to tear you down. They want to come up with excuses for everything. I often joke that they're the problem child in your group. They're the cancer. But then the other question is, are you the cancer? So I've had to think that through. There's been times when I'm like, oh, I'm the cancer. I'm the one in the group that has been complaining the most. These are other groups I've been in, and I'm like, oh no, I kind of need to remove myself from the group because I'm the problem, right? Like that's interesting when you start to look around and wonder who's the rotten apple, and like your fingers are pointing right at you. So consider, are you the rotten apple? Or are you the complainer on every turn? Are you the one that's constantly has questions and objections to everything? How can you maybe move to be a green apple and just start researching things and then just say, "You know what? I'm in. I'm doing this," and become a red apple. But I don't really have time for the rotten apples. I can't that's like again dragging a horse to water or pushing a rock up a hill. We don't have time for that. So just go after those red apples. And then, the objections of is this a pyramid scheme? What about the FDA? And I don't have any time. I don't have any money. I get all the excuses. And it's like, okay, well, how are we gonna go after that from a different perspective and change our mindset, literally flip it on its head and help people understand all of these. I have actual write-ups and videos that talk about all these things. So we're not going to get into that because this would take about an hour. But also consider people when they say no. Do you get offended? Just consider, okay, well, it's a no now and it'll be a yes later. Can I change it to a yes? Probably. And I think that. I used to work for a company that I would let our competing company in my group. So I had this huge education group and I would educate everybody. But then I would let all the people from our competitor in and it drove everyone crazy. But you know what it was? It was a challenge to me to flip them. I always lovingly, openly invited them in, and then I would have back conversations with them, and I would lovingly flip them. It was a challenge. It was, how can I change these people who are naysayers to a I'm actually all in now. So think about that, right? How do you just flip the switch of your mental, oh, they just everybody says no, right? All right. And remember, who you work with is your choice. That's mind-blowing in and of itself. Who you work with is your choice. You can fire some of your clients. You can be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe work with our upline. We're not working too well together." And that's okay. Don't make yourself crazy with a rotten apple. If you have a rotten apple on your team, which we all do, I mean, it happens, you can limit and put boundaries and just say, you know, I think we don't fit well. And that's okay. Not everybody likes everybody. That's okay. I'm still going to love you. And you can love them through that. But maybe pass them off to one of your leaders, right? And say, "Can you help?" and be their like main point of contact. Because we don't want you to be dragged down because you got to cut the cancer out. And remember, pay attention. Are you the cancer? Really look in because I was the cancer. So we gotta make sure we're not the cancers. All right. And then the numbers. I think so many people get caught up in the numbers. They think, well, why are my numbers not as high as their numbers? And what's going on with that number? And like your starting out numbers are very different than numbers of experienced or people who have been growing longer, right? It's like it's been fermenting longer. They've just had more time. Also, your skill sets are different than someone else's skill set, right? I might have had a success in one area of growing fast, but then my personal lack of success is, okay, how do I help people on the business side? Because I'm an educator. So I love educating people and they're learning about the patches and all of that, but how do I help them get excited about the business side, right? So that's a thing where my skill set, I'm growing in that area. So what's your superpower? Like mine is education, but what's your superpower? And then figure out how you can help that superpower, right? Really, who would hire you? I ask that question every day. Huh? Would I hire me today or would I fire me today? I literally ask that question. And it's not about how much I do or perform or get done. And it's more about, did I fulfill my goal as an entrepreneur? And that's different every day, right? But how am I showing up? Not only for my family, right? Some days I don't work at all. And what a blessing that is, because some days I actually need to pay attention to things with my family, like my son or my husband, my mom, right? There are things that happen in our lives where I feel I have so much time freedom that I can say, bye, guys, I'm going to be out for a couple days because I got to hang out with my family. Something's going on, and that's okay. And I actually look at those days as good job. Good job for taking a break and focusing on your family. But at the end of the day, I'm always sharing and building. Anybody that has a question or need, people model what you do, not what you say. And so I show my team my numbers. I show them, here's how many people like we're ranking to a trip right now. We're actually working on getting a all-inclusive paid trip. And we're tracking our numbers. So I'm showing them and they're seeing that I actively sign people up each week. Just here's what I signed up yesterday. Here's my goal for this week, right? So they are seeing my work. And that's important. You need to be able to see your leaders and that they're working. They're not just saying, do what I say and not as I do, right? So model that for your people. And then the results. People buy you more than the product. They really do. And I've heard people teach that's not true. I disagree with that. I think as you move forward, if you're timid and sharing, nobody's going to buy from you. If you are passionate about your product and you know just enough, right? You don't need to know everything at all. Actually, you don't need to at all. You need to point them to patchy to you. But you're passionate. These work. I want you to use these so badly. And the business opportunity is amazing, right? Sharing with passion, they're going to respond to you more than the product. The product will sell itself. But I want you to consider how am I creating value for others? How am I showing up for my team? How am I creating a team culture that matters? And then what are the long-term results versus the short term? Because they're different. And some of you get into this weird habit of I'm wanting short-term results fast, so you build wrong, and then it's not sustainable, right? And then you're wondering why your long-term results aren't happening is because you're kind of stunting yourself because you're trying to go too fast too soon as opposed to building strong, solid right and left. You need 20 people on your right, 20 people on your left that you personally sign up. So I know some people just work real fast to get a couple on their big leg and then they throw everybody on their short leg and then they realize, "Oh no, like I need people on both." Okay, so how are you strategically and sustainably building your organization? And then remember the importance of repetition. It's constantly repeating, we're rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I'm practicing, practicing, practicing until it's perfect. And it will never will be. I'll never be perfect. You'll never be perfect. But we get better when we practice, when we actually practice. So if you're thinking, oh, I could never go online and do a Zoom to my team and never teach them anything. Well, you've already shot yourself in the foot. It's better to say, okay, I'm going to someday do an excellent job at training my team. My team's going to love my trainings. I'm going to be so good at it. And you may be terrible right now. How do you get good? You start going online, you start doing little Zooms of yourself, you start doing little lives of yourself, you start, participating in things, talking on camera, looking at how you look on camera, looking at what you say, your hand gestures. We just learned from Brandon Barber that the number one uh like TED Talks, like the TED Talks that are rated the number one, have the most hand gestures. Not crazy, but just enough. Because people who sit here with their hands down look like they're hiding something. So if you have just enough hand gestures and you just, those you feel like, "Oh, okay, I can trust that person." Like just odd things, right? So I want you to consider that you personally are the key to your own success. So how do you work through that? And the potential is huge. The problem is oftentimes we put glass ceilings on ourselves, but we also put them on our customers. We put them on our friends. I've had people say, "Oh, my people want to watch your trainings, but they don't want to watch the business portion. So can you make sure those are split into two different segments?" Well, how do you know they don't want to hear the business? That's crazy. You just put a glass ceiling on them, okay? And what about your stinking thinking? I mean, how many of us are prone to complaining, like every single person on the planet? So how can you switch that up? How can you change that from negative mindset to I love this person. I see the good in them. I'm caring for them. I'm smiling at them. I'm helping them. They may be so annoying, but how can I help them? Right? And if at the end of the day they become too much of a cancer, like I said, it's fine. It's fine. You're not going to like everyone. Everyone's not going to like you. But we got to move away from the stinking thinking and the complaining, right? Of it. I mean, I could say that about myself. It's like, oh, what happened today? And I tell my husband all about it. And it's like, well, that just spirals. So are you a quitter, a sitter, or a go-getter? And that's real important to consider because so many of us are quitters. We start it, we're so excited, and then we quit. I have had chronic quitters. I have had people who come on my team, start out, they're so excited for 1 month, and then they disappear. And then 6 months later, they come back, they're so excited, They're all on board 1 month and then they disappear. I've had this be literally where this same person did this like 10 times over the course of 8 years. What's going on? So I just let her be because she's a chronic quitter. Are you a sitter? Are you somebody that just sits back and I just want to be at all the things? I want to learn all the things and be at all the things, but I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit. Uh, I- mm, my friend, there's a lot of you that just sit. You're there, you're present. I see you. And you haven't sold a thing to anyone. You haven't shared this with anyone. You may have, and you may think you have, but you shared it kind of like ho hum because of your stinking thinking. Nobody's going to want to buy from me, right? It's that whole thing of just get out of your own head, like get out of your own way. So if you're a sitter, if you're a quitter, I don't know how to help you. I mean, those people, they're just weird. Like they just quit. Okay, bye. But if you're a sitter, how can you change to a go-getter? Well, watch this whole presentation again. Okay. I want you to really consider how can you become a go-getter? You got to change your mindset in a big way. You got to work on yourself. And just remember, people say no all the time. And a no is just a not yet. It's okay. Ask them again. Give them 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month. And then some of you are going after the wrong whale. We talked about this already, but some of you are like, oh, I got this person. They're amazing. Really, like some of you have huge, I've actually heard from some of you, you know, some of the biggest coaches in the United States, if not the world. You actually know them. They go to your church. Oh, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him on board. I'm like, no, you're not. That would take you possibly, I don't know how long it would take you. I mean, it would be a very special situation. The person might have to be your dad. I mean, and even then. But the thing is, we think we put all of our like drive into the wrong whales. When the people who are hungry, the people who you wouldn't even expect, just share. The more people you share with, the more potential you share with somebody who loves it and then shares with somebody else who then shares with somebody else who happens to be their dad who's a whale, you know what I mean? Who then blows up your organization. That happens all the time. And it's usually not you that finds that person, and that's okay. But enjoy the ride, right? That just means you got to share with everybody. And don't prejudge someone else's potential. That again, you're putting a glass ceiling over them. So much potential in so many people. And that's the problem, is that there's so much potential in you. And you might be so close. You may not realize how close you are. Like when you go to Vegas and you're at the slot and you're at the slot and you're at the slot and you're like, oh my gosh, I just lost all my money and I have no more. And you walk away and then you watch and somebody walks and sits down and chicking, right? And you're like, what? It happens more than you think. Don't give up on your dreams. The tipping point, one more crack at the wall and there could be your millions. I mean, that's how crazy it is. That's how this world works. God has a sense of humor, but don't give up. That's the reality. Don't give up. So go to patchedu.com, learn some new stuff. Go to the YouTube channel, patchedu, literally youtube.com/@patchedu. I want you to learn. I want you to figure it out. I want you to dive in. I want you to consider, what are your mental blocks? What are your problems? Get some coaching. Find some people to help you. Come join our team meetings. Ask questions. Get involved. But just start. You won't regret it, I promise you. And it's going to be amazing. The journey's amazing. And I'll see you at all the trips because we're going to win all the trips together. Okay. I, I love you guys and I hope this has been helpful. So be blessed and we'll see you on the next one.